What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk about Marvel every day. And yesterday, it was revealed that Marvel Studios had put a few series they were working on hold. The three series that were specifically reported on were Nova, Strange Academy, and Terror Inc. Although Brad Winderbaum, the head of Marvel Television, has told us before in the past that Marvel Studios is currently working on a lot more than they'll actually release. So they probably delayed a lot of other projects as well. Now, a lot of fans are pretty bummed about this, but I did a video about this yesterday explaining that this basically makes sense considering we're about to go into Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. As we dive into these huge movies, everything's gonna pretty much need to be connected, or affect the story in a pretty big way. Think Ant-Man and the Wasp. That came out after Avengers Infinity War, but before Avengers Endgame, and it introduced us to the Quantum Realm, which played an absolutely huge role in Avengers Endgame, and also, not to mention the post-credit scene, set up Ant-Man to be a particularly important character for the events of Avengers Endgame, telling them about the Quantum Realm and how time had only passed 5 minutes for him in the Quantum Realm instead of 5 years. So stories like that tie into the overall story of the Multiverse Saga are what Marvel Studios is going to focus on. So it doesn't come as that big of a surprise that these projects that won't tie into the overall story of the Multiverse Saga have been delayed. However, on the other side of this, we are actually hearing about new projects being developed and some great updates for those looking for a Hawkeye season 2 and a Agatha All Along season 2, which we kind of thought there wasn't going to be one. And that's pretty much because the director said there wasn't going to be one. However, we heard today from Marvel Studios in an interview that it is entirely possible to get an Agatha season 2. And to top it all off, it looks like Marvel Studios is developing an X-Men Disney Plus series. A series that I do think makes a lot of sense to have in the MCU once the X-Men enter. So a lot to break down. Let's get into it, starting with the X-Men. We know Avengers Secret Wars is coming May 27th of 2027. We're obviously all looking forward to that. However, Marvel Studios has two other release slates for 2027. We have July 23rd and November 5th. And based off of everything that we've heard, the X-Men movie is one of these slots, which makes a lot of sense because the next saga is going to be the mutant era of the MCU. That's what Marvel President Kevin Feige said. So immediately after the Multiverse Saga, we go right into the X-Men. And from what it sounds like, from what insiders are saying, the X-Men movie isn't going to be an X-Men origin story. We are going to have an actual team of X-Men. But here's the deal. Of course, there are a ton of mutants and a ton of X-Men throughout time. So just because we don't see an origin story for the X-Men team that'll be on screen doesn't mean that they're not going to show us origins for other mutants who come into Professor X's school. In fact, it sounds like that's exactly what we're going to get in the form of a new Disney Plus show. Yesterday, insider Jeff Snyder on the Hot Mic podcast reported that he heard about a different show being developed at Marvel Studios. When talking about shows being canceled, specifically Strange Academy, he said this on the podcast. So when I heard about the Strange Academy, I heard something else from a different source who I had asked about the Academy, and they said, "Oh, I heard about the Academy show, but it wasn't Strange Academy. They said that there's going to be an X Academy." They have sort of said that it was going to potentially lead into the X-Men. Someone else said, "I'd be surprised if they started doing X-Men shows before the movie, and that it would probably be a spin-off of the movie, so it would come after." When speaking of his sources, he stated, "Both of them are of the opinion that there was in fact an X-Men show in the works about X Academy and young mutants." And this just makes a ton of sense that Marvel Studios would be developing the series for many different reasons. And the good news is, this is not one of the shows that is said to be canceled. It makes sense that they would continue working on this show because it's very clear right now that Marvel Studios is working on the next few years after Avengers Secret Wars. They're working on the first few years of the mutant saga. So they're locking down their X-Men movie and they're locking down their first X-Men Disney Plus show, and it would make sense that it would focus on young mutants. You give us an X-Men team and then you give us a show about the future X-Men team. A series that will show us the X-Men trying to learn to control their powers. Something that we briefly kind of saw in X-Men First Class, but obviously, well, you at least would hope this would be a lot more in depth. And I don't think this show was actually going to be the same as Strange Academy. It sounds like, from what Jeff Snyder said, that there wasn't an actual Strange Academy show being developed, but it was in fact an X-Men show. I don't think that's the case. Other insiders have talked about Strange Academy long before. I think these are two different shows, and I think both would have a really good place post Avengers Secret Wars, obviously with the X-Men coming in, but sorcerers are also still going to be around. So a show about training upcoming sorcerers makes sense as well. But we know Disney and Marvel Studios are not going to stop doing Disney Plus shows, and since we're going into the mutant era of the MCU, having a series focused on young mutants would be really, really awesome. And these are probably the mutants that will go on to be future versions of the X-Men team. Like, for example, we've heard that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is going to stick around for a pretty long time. Well, in this show, he could pop up and make a cameo appearance. It also kind of leads to a very good out for him. If he's going to be a part of the new X-Men team in the MCU, eventually we will want a new Wolverine. So introducing one X-Men team originally that has Hugh Jackman's Wolverine on it, but then as these new younger mutants grow up and some of them become a part of the X-Men team and we essentially get a new one, that could be Hugh Jackman's out. And that could be the opening to bring in the new Wolverine. And perhaps that's why Hugh Jackman's Wolverine will finally feel okay to leave. Like, he'll probably have some type of PTSD about leaving the X-Men, considering his past. He left and all of them got slaughtered. So he probably wants to stick around and make sure everybody's safe. But when a new Wolverine comes, he'll probably feel a lot better about leaving. And I think it all is going to kind of build up from this Young Mutants X Academy show, which I think is a great idea and I am really, really excited for. And I'm also excited that we could be getting a Hawkeye season 2 and an Agatha All Along season 2. And we found out that both of these are on Marvel's radar in a new interview with Entertainment Weekly. And the title of the article reads, "Marvel for sure wants Agatha All Along season 2, but let's not rush it. Exclusive." This is an interview with Marvel TV head Brad Winderbaum, and in this interview they talk about how Patti LuPone said that show creator Jack Schaefer told her that there wasn't going to be a season 2, that she doesn't do season 2s. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Agatha All Along, Jack Schaefer told Patti that Lilia was going to die, and Patti said, "But I want a season 2, and Jack said, "I don't do season 2s. They wanted a second season of WandaVision, and I didn't." So everybody thought that was the end of Agatha season 2. However, Brad Winderbaum in this interview says this: "A show like Agatha to me is concept based. Yes, a second season for sure is something that we would want to do, but let's not rush it. Let's get the right idea and then make it." So he confirms, despite what Jack Schaefer said, a season 2 is totally on the table, and if the right story comes along, they'll definitely do it. Besides, we have to see what happens with Billy and Agatha going to search for Tommy, and eventually Billy and Tommy will reunite with their mother, Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. Whether that's in a season 2 of Agatha All Along or if it's in a movie somewhere, we'll have to wait and see on that. But like I mentioned in the beginning, he also talks about Hawkeye season 2. He states, and I quote, "Hawkeye is another one that feels like you can make a second season of that show because it's Christmas, because it's Clint and Kate. You can kind of revisit it whenever, and we're looking for opportunities to do that. But as we develop things for the future, I think they're going to be designed to be multiple seasons, have more of a pattern, and be able to be released annually." So two things right there are awesome. One is that we could be getting a Hawkeye season 2. In fact, it sounds like they're actively searching for a way to do Hawkeye season 2. And two, the projects that they build in the future are going to be designed to have multiple seasons, which is awesome if a show is good. If it's garbage, maybe not so, and it probably wouldn't get a second season if it is garbage. But for a show like the X-Men series, X Academy, if they knock that out of the park and it's an amazing show, yeah, we're gonna want multiple seasons of that. And we can already see Marvel Studios starting to do this. They already have 2 seasons of Daredevil Born Again. They have 3 seasons coming for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So we can see that they've already started to kind of implement this with their strategy when it comes to making new Disney Plus shows. So overall, amazing news today. We've heard that an X Academy show is in development at Marvel Studios right now. We might be getting that sometime around 2027 or 2028. Agatha season 2 is a possibility, and it looks like Marvel Studios is actively trying to make Hawkeye season 2 as well. So great news. Let me know how excited you are about this in the comments down below. Let me know what you are most excited about. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news, rumors, or leaks. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.